workday, middle of the workday kind of thing. So we appreciate everybody taking time out to join us for this conversation. It's a laundry room. It's going to be a little bit different than a normal laundry room in that we're going to talk about ASTI. As most of you know, I've been involved in that process and that production for a few years now. And even though I stepped back from the presidency at last event, I did stay on as chair of ASTI committee just to make sure that things are as smooth as they possibly can be. We've had a lot of growth and transition. So we want to get some feedback at this point. I have a few board members on here as well. We just want to talk about the things that, number one, we could do better. The things that we're doing well, the things that you like, the things you don't like. And I know some of you have a very unique perspective because you're vendors. So, and we really appreciate that response as well. So we just want to open it with a conversation about one of our newest endeavors, which is Tech Connect. So we did Tech Connect this past ASTI, was our first time rolling that out. So it was quite a production, but I want to get some feedback. What did everybody think of Tech Connect? How did it go? Did you see room for improvement? I hope so, because first time out, there's got to be room for improvement. We love that. So tell us what you thought of Tech Connect.
Well, Renee, I'll start off. I did not have an opportunity to see the Tech Connect because being a vendor, trying to man the booth and do a couple of classes. So I'd like to hear others' opinions of how it went so that I can kind of get a idea of what it was about.
Okay, fair
Other
enough.
than what I read about.
Gotcha. Well, I'd love to hear what you read about.
Well, I mean, I read the description, through the app and through
Okay.
your weekly advertisements and
Okay.
marketing.
Perfect. So I guess what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask some of my board members to take off your board member hat because you're attendees too, and you also run companies, and that's the side of this that I want to hear about. So take off your board member hat for a moment and tell me what you saw and what you think we could do better. Everybody, I hope, had an opportunity. Is there anybody on this call that did not have an opportunity to attend our event earlier this year? And therefore wouldn't have any insight into this particular thing? Okay, good.
Okay. So Renee, can I chime in and just kind of give everybody an overview of where Tech Connect came from? And
Sure.
okay, so the Tech Connect idea came from the advisory group with a lot of the OEMs and vendors who created the concept and the idea of having a playground, or that was the original name, the Tech Playground, where technicians can come in and actually touch, feel the product more. And it was an extra touch for the OEMs to be able to contact technicians and the business owners to show their product, but also help technicians on maybe some more individual issues. So it kind of grew from just a kind of like just have a lot of product out there. OEMs could drive whatever, could kind of a free for all for them a little bit because, like I said, it's our first time. So let's see what you can do with it. So as the name evolved, we called it a connection with tech. So it would be Tech Connect. And so being the first one, it was quite an orchestrated thing, trying to get all those products all at the center of the trade area all together at the same time when they're in a loading dock, they're on trucks, they're in other meeting rooms, they're all over the place, and trying to get all those moved into one place for Tech Connect. And the OEMs did a really good job, I thought, with it, especially for getting all the product coordinated. And so that's the whole idea. And we want to leave it open to to ideas on what we can do with it next. Now, that said, we're always going to be limited to what we can and can't do with this to a certain extent by the hotel and the venue that we're at. But we would like to continue to build on this and like I said, to make connections with technicians and business owners and OEMs on these things. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, so for those of you, I know Mark said he didn't have an opportunity to walk over, and I see some of you are saying you didn't have an opportunity to kind of see what it was about. So this is an opportunity for technicians to kind of get their hands involved in the product itself and have one-on-one experiences with the trainers. What we felt like, and from our point of view, is that sometimes in a classroom setting, depending on how the instructor conducts the class, some people may not have the opportunity to really get what they want out of it, which is hands-on. I've yet to meet a technician that said, no, I'm fine with book learning. I don't need to touch the product, right? They all want to get their hands involved in it. And I respect that because I would too if I was working on it. And so this was our opportunity to offer them that at a more one-on-one, not such a group environment, because we understand that some people can be a little reluctant to ask questions or to even, get involved in a group setting, especially if it's their first ASTI. Well, I think we can all agree if it's your first ASTI, it's kind of an overwhelming experience to come into that environment. So that was our opportunity to offer that. So I actually was sick the night of the trade show, so I didn't get to go to it, which was a huge disappointment for me. But I walked in the next morning and was able to walk around and kind of talk to some of the people who were manning those stations, and I got a lot of positive feedback from the people who were in charge of the products. So tell us some of your experiences. Did you have an opportunity to speak with trainers? Was it more than you would normally get out of a trade show experience to have that added to it?
I know Joe was really happy with it. He said he enjoyed the opportunity to just go and pick whatever he wanted to see and ask questions, and he learned a lot from that. He's not in the office right now, so I can't pick his brain any more than that, but I do know that it was a positive experience for him. He appreciated it.
Good. Good. I think some of the stuff I was getting from trainers is that they were happy to be able to talk about their product with people on a more one-on-one basis and answer questions. And it's also an opportunity for them to show it off. And I think that's valuable.
Do you
Jack, did you hear
anticipate?
I'm sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Do you anticipate any commercial vendors coming to ASTI in the future and participating in Tech Connect? That would be pretty neat also.
I can say that for right now, we don't have talks with anybody. Of course, we have been asked this question before about bringing the commercial side into that event. And we, as a board, we've thought about it and have kind of turned that over and turned it over and turned it over. And it's still a conversation. What's the feedback on that, guys? Would you be interested in seeing more commercial or commercial at all? We haven't traditionally had that. So how would you feel about commercial joining that event?
Everyone's on mute. You guys can use your emotions to clap or put your hands up or whatever you want, but
Hello, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
we can.
Okay, I didn't introduce myself. I kind of just jumped into this conversation. My name is
Fine.
Jason Quinones, and I actually represent ACP, which is a commercial manufacturer for
Mhm.
microwave ovens, Amana Mini Master and Express Chef ovens. You said about joining commercial. I'm sorry, I missed that one point. You mean joining commercial? I just jumped in just to see what this was about, and see if there's anything I could do to help the industry, and also to network a little bit to find maybe even possible servicers, because we are really hurting in the United States.
Gotcha.
Client servicers and warranty providers. But yeah, that was a
Gotcha.
good question. Sorry.
All right. Well, Jason, we can talk. I'll talk to you after the call. We can kind of see if there's some opportunities. But thanks for jumping on today. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
we do. Now, to clarify, your product line is commercial, which would be like restaurants and things like that?
Yes. We do the Express Chef ovens for like Subways, Dunkin' Donuts. We're in pretty much almost all the chains all over. It's an international manufacturer, and also a man and many master microwaves.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying. That gives us kind of a bigger picture of what it is your company would bring to the table. So this has been an ongoing conversation. I know some of our members and some of the attendees already do get into the commercial side of this. Mark?
Got a little bit of input from the educational side. Of course, our program is called RCAT, Residential and Commercial Appliance Technology. And ACP, I recently met with them at another unnamed convention recently. But we've asked them to join our national technical committee. Jason, I've known Joe since 1997 at Maytag days, and
That is
so we're
awesome.
hoping to bring them on board. But whenever I talk to schools about them adopting a RCAP program into their offerings, one of their questions is, what do you have to offer for commercial product training? And so that's why, I hope to be working with ACP. And one of our national committee members is called CEFESA. It's a trade association for the commercial side of our industry. It's called the Commercial Equipment Food Service Association. And so they also were at the last convention. It was their first time attending a convention because they wanted to see what kind of an appetite there was in the independent service network to get into the commercial side. And they had quite a few independent servicers attend, come over to their booth. So I think, I think the answer is yes, commercial seems to be more of a up and coming need in the industry for technicians. And I think in the light of diversity, a lot of service business owners are wanting to get into the commercial side. It's very profitable, actually less of a headache, if you would, than doing residential. And there's good support out there. So, if you want to throw in commercial, we can certainly make some connections. But I think entering into the commercial field would be a great thing for UASA and for ASTI.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I actually had their card laying on my desk as you said that
Okay, there
that
you
I
go.
took from an unnamed convention recently. Who else thinks that's a good idea? I'd love to hear from other people on this. I know, like I said, some of us already do this. I know a couple of companies right off the top of my head that I know they've been doing this for some time. So I know there are a lot of us that are, considering that, and maybe perhaps more information would help, push some of us off the fence in terms of whether we want to do it or we don't want to do it. I'm intrigued to hear that it's less headaches because I didn't think less headaches existed in our industry. So I'm encouraged, Mark, to hear that it's less trouble or less headaches than what we're currently doing. So it is an ongoing information flow for us. We're trying to find out if it would be welcomed. So that's good to hear. Thank you for the input. Anybody else like to weigh in on commercial being offered at ASTI or being invited to attend?
So as far as our own company, we've been considering it for actually quite a few years. It's seeming to make more sense these days. And as an association, we are getting more buzz and more inquiries into that end of things. And yeah, hey, commercial, those are appliances too, right? So, so it's definitely being talked about on the board in great length. And for my own opinion, I think that I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, I think it would be a good offering. So,
Yeah, I think it's more than just seeing the actual things that Tech Connect. I think there's, dipping your toes into commercial and trying to learn about it is the getting the parts, those kind of connections would be important. How to charge, because, many of us use Blue Book, but charging for commercial is a completely different animal, and some guidance on just how to set up and get started and stuff like that would be really interesting to learn about.
Jack,
So-
you want to weigh in on that? I saw you nod.
Yeah, commercial is a little different in that sometimes there are parts and that kind of stuff aren't available through the regular PD suppliers. Sometimes you have to go direct, etc. Same thing with like HVAC stuff is part of the reason we don't have that stuff in the appliance Blue Book is because we don't have availability to get parts, pricing and availability, etc. So, but it should be at a premium rate. One thing that I will kind of note is if you dip your toes into commercial, their expectations are very different than residential. So they are looking for 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service. They're looking for drop everything and work on it right now because I have, $50,000 worth of food that is spoiling and all of that kind of stuff. So it also can be a really messy, not that residential can't be, but you're dealing with grease and massive amounts of food and workers and all kinds of stuff. So not saying you shouldn't do it, just saying different things to weigh in as you're considering commercial.
Gloves and booties, and that's to protect yourself.
Yeah, I think in general, sometimes I think we'd all agree. Sometimes we go into residential situations that we feel like we need hazmat at times. So I think we're kind of on the fence still about getting involved in that. I've heard both ways. I've heard that it is, to Mark's point, less of a pain, and then I've heard that it's more of a challenge. So I still don't know. I'd probably welcome some more information, to be honest. And so I think it's not a horrible thing. Jason?
Yeah, I actually didn't get to share something. I've owned 3 service companies before this. I'm actually master certified technician for Safesa. If anybody has any questions, I would love to help you guys out. I've been involved in the residential side, and I've done service work for the residential side with my company, my previous company, and also in the commercial side. So one of the things to take in consideration would be also your insurance. Your insurance will have to be reviewed or maybe increased. I think I had a $2 million insurance or
Yeah.
5 million or 2 million. I can't remember, one of those, to be able to cover some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. Which is, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the kind of stuff we think about the work aspect, the customer aspect, the developmental aspect, the training aspect. But a lot of times we ignore the back end stuff, the insurance, the liability, all of those things that go into it. So I'm glad you brought that up. I heard you say certified master tech for Safesa. Did I? Okay. So let's talk about this for a moment. One of the things that we have wanted to develop for many years is a certification program. And we're looking at trying to, develop that a little bit more and get an idea what's the climate on that? Do you think that's unnecessary? Do you think it is something that will be a product or a piece that we need with ASTI? Weigh in on that a little bit. Tell us what you think about those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah. Even my first company, it was a certified affiliated company. We wanted to get into the inner circles of the industry, and that's really hard in the commercial side. So one of the benefits of being a CFESA certified technician is not only safety. You could present that to your insurance. You know, a technician that's well trained could reduce the risk of injury or property damage. Another thing was another benefit would be to be able to come up with a association per se, and then you could probably create more revenue, and then create training courses. I'm also involved in the young mentors training. Uh, I developed a training program for young kids, about 13 or so. And there's a lot of interest in the industry. I mean, in these young men, but they just don't know about the industries. So
Mhm.
there is a benefit for all this. Yeah.
Okay, good. Anybody else have a weigh in on that? All right. I saw Scott reaching. I thought he was going, Scott, I thought you were going to weigh in on that.
No, ma'am. I just got here and you got 150 people on there and you call me out.
I get it. I totally get it. So let's I want to keep this sort of focused on the event itself for now, because I want to talk about a couple of things. But what about class selection? Because as I walk around and talk to people that whole week, I hear a couple of things. The things I hear are wanted to attend 2 classes, but they were on at the same time. So can we do repeats? I hear this all the time. Can we do repeats classes? Can you run this one again? And the other thing I hear is that there was too many things to choose from, which is a good problem to have, I believe. But as attendees, tell me what you think. Are we presenting enough? Not enough? Should we do repeats? What's the general climate when you're trying to attend these classes?
I'll chime in. Speaking from a vendor perspective, yes, it's good to have a lot of selection because there's just so much inventory of knowledge out there that needs to be displayed and needs to be presented. And that's a great thing for, the members, the independents that come, especially those that are not factory authorized, or typically most of them don't have access other than through internet classes to do any business management. And then those business management classes may not even be focused towards the focused towards the service side of the business,
Right.
specifically appliance repair service. So I think, the mix was very good. But I will say it was a lot to take in. I didn't have an opportunity between running the trade show booth and the classes I taught to sit in on too many of the other classes.
Yes.
And I heard the same thing from attendees that there was just so much offered. Uh, it was suggested maybe you do it for a 2-week period. Just kidding.
Yeah,
It would
I
almost take that though to be able to go through every single, class, whether technical or business that's offered.
mhm.
Um,
Jenny, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was just it has been on my mind for the past few years that it might be whenever we go there, I always take this away. Might be good to identify some different pathways or tag
Mhm.
classes that are appropriate for people that are in their first 5 years of business, and then people that are very seasoned, or people that do sales and service and have 15 plus technicians. It's just a very different animal than somebody like us who is on our third technician. You know, we have 3 techs and one administrative person and myself. So
Right.
and just because a lot of times people our size are doing their own marketing, they're doing their own blog posts. There, you know, a lot of the things that I teach whenever I'm presenting there is really geared towards those people who are DIYing a lot of things and not the people that are hiring out, um, you know, service. Uh, who who is the lady that does a lot of the like the web servicers web is who I'm thinking of, Christina
Christina.
Straker.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like oftentimes the smaller companies aren't ready to invest in somebody to do their Google ads and their SEO and build their websites, and they're trying to do it all themselves. And so
Mhm.
some of that information can be overwhelming, or maybe they're just learning how to set up their QuickBooks and um, you know, the cost of doing business intro one is really relevant, but not like the super one where they're looking at all their financial
Right.
reporting and stuff like that. So it's just a thought to kind of, you know, I've been to some patient safety things through the hospital, and they'll have like a clinical pathway and a quality management pathway and a physician's pathway. So it's just that same kind of idea would be really helpful, I think, when people are choosing.
Yeah, we've actually developed those over the past couple of years. It was listed on the app with the class listing. And maybe we need to make it more evident because
Mhm.
we recognize that that was an issue as well. And we also recognize that we wanted to have like a level 1, level 2 sort of thing with different classes that are offered. And so one of our board members sat down with some of our more adept at the app piece and developed that so that we could have uh, some sort of lead into how this, you know, is this for beginners? Is this for business owners? Is this for technicians? Is this what? Because we agree, we've noticed that we needed to have that too. Some of the feedback I've gotten over the years was I went into this particularly on one of our software presenters, and a few years back, and when we were in St. Pete's Beach, I was talking to an owner about being in that class because we use that software, blah, blah, blah. It's really good and you should do it. Saw him later and I said, how did you like it? He said, all of
Mhm.
it. All of it was over my head. I got up and left. And I thought, okay, then we need to have something that bridges that because I
Mhm.
can understand that. You know, I've been using certain softwares for a long time and there's still pieces of it. And I know some of you will relate. There's still pieces of it that I'm like, I don't know what that's, I
Mhm.
don't use that piece of it. Um, so it can be kind of overwhelming. So thank you for recognizing that. We too agree. We've recognized that too. So we're still developing a better system of informing people of what would be more suited to a beginner versus big company, so on and so forth, so that people can choose classes a little bit better.
We did the call for presenters was in this week's newsletter for those of you who received it. And we do have on that form this year what level you intend that class to be for. Like just kind of to give us some guidance. We'll of course review these more in depth as we get closer.
Mhm.
But if you are complete, if those of you are interested in teaching, we did put that on the form this year. So it kind of helps us as we look at what we're going to offer.
Yeah. So let me ask the hard question, and this is not to reflect on any presenter at all. What class are we offering that you have had a plenty of? That we, you know, it's there every single time, you've had a plenty of it, we don't need any more. Is there a class out there that you'd like to see rotated with something else that we could
Taxonista,
present?
maybe?
Hmm?
Taxonista would be my,
That would be
yeah,
your first.
not to pick on her. It's just,
Right.
yeah, yeah, that one feels very salesy to me. She does present some practical things.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that just being super open and honest. That
No, then,
I,
and that's the purpose here. We want to know how we can improve on everything you know, in a way that benefits people. So we always get a lot of feedback on the fly. In the event, during the event, we get a lot of feedback on the fly. I'm sure you guys have heard it and you've probably presented some of it, and we appreciate it. But sometimes it's at the moment that you're getting it, it's, you know, the horse is already out of the barn. You can't do anything about it. It's already done. So we can apply it going forward, and that's what we're hoping to do. So talking about classes, we always hear that we have more business classes than we do technical classes. Is there a good balance, or should we have more or less of one or the other? For those of you who've attended and attend both of those, should they be split where we have technical in the morning, business in the afternoon? Because I hear people say, I wanted to be in this manufacturer's class, but at the same time, this business class was being offered and I couldn't do both, so I had to go with whatever. So is there a better way that we could be presenting those things, a structure that would help?
We usually divide and conquer. So, but what I was thinking as far as class, I would love to have more classes teaching our technicians how to sell.
Mhm.
Because I think they know how to fix, you know, they usually are technically inclined, but selling the jobs, you know, that kind of thing, and really learning how to understand what the client needs and what can benefit them the most and how to help them out, and just kind of having that really comfortable conversation. And then I'd love to see more classes offered towards administrative staff in the office, and like not just customer service, because some of them are really great at that too, but just like how to manage parts in your office, those types of things to help the office staff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had a really good parts class couple of years in a row, I think, and it was a few years back. So, you know, in our effort to transition and rotate things so that we're not redundant, I think that kind of you know, leaves a gaps at times, certain times. I I would love to develop a office strategy certification for ASTI, primarily for ASTI. But these things, I think they have to be carried throughout the year, not just something that you can send somebody to and they get it in, you know, the 4 days that they're there. I think it should be something that if you can't send your person, they can still do the webinars or the online, and as long as they complete everything with a certain amount of hours, they get a certificate for completion. I think that's valuable. I would like to see my staff complete that. So does anybody think that would be a valuable addition? Debbie, I saw you take your mute off. Don't you be shy. I know you better than that.
I think parts are too hard to do at ASTI. I think it should be selected because people ship, you know, and then you have too many technicians that come into the office that don't come into the office. Too many companies handle it so many different ways that spending one whole class period on something like that, I think is it's too vast. I think there's too much going on, because I wouldn't go to that class because in certain areas of the country, we handle it differently. And, you know, I think it would be a great, maybe even a laundry room topic to get some ideas to maybe even be adding to what you're already doing. But I think a full class on parts management, unless one of the parts distributors wants to give us best practices or something that we, you know, that they see that we're doing poorly, that would be a turn that you know, maybe they can tell us what we're not doing. So
I think that's a deep well too. You know, because they're seeing we've got this little, you know, finite pool that we're looking at, ourselves and the people who are nearest to us and the people that we've networked with. But PDs are seeing everybody. And that's got to be a deep, deep well to try and troubleshoot or say, yeah, this works better than that. Because I'd be willing to bet you they have hundreds of individuals who are doing it right, quote unquote. So I don't know where you would go with that, but I agree with you. I think it's a deep topic to try and put a framework around for a class or something of that nature.
Not to say that we don't need to focus on it, Jenny, because we do.
No, I agree. I
You
think
know, we're
we
all a
should.
part of
Well,
that, but as far
Yeah.
as our valuable time at ASTI, I don't know that that's it, but I would love to have maybe even a laundry room to get some ideas where people are flowing, you know, what their best practices are and share some
Yeah.
new information maybe.
I think we've done that one too a couple of times, but I mean, we always, you can bring in new ideas because I don't know about you or anybody on this call, but we changed our process a couple of times. And by a couple, I mean probably a dozen. And initially we were doing it when we first bought the company 20 years ago, they were doing it a certain way. And you come in as a novice with new eyes, and that was my role. And I said, why are we doing it like this? And the answer I got was because we have always done it that way. And for me, I don't think that's a good enough answer. Explore your process and find out where you can fix things. And thankfully, we have done that a few times. Because as you change and grow, and your customer also changes and grows, because how many people are texting people now that you weren't doing it 10 years ago, right? Customers change, your customer base changes. So we have to grow and change. So I think having that as a repeat is always going to be valuable for us to do.
Renee,
Looking
something
at
I would
some,
offer
ahead.
up as a framework, when you're talking about certification and talking about the need for all of these various avenues of training that's needed, you could consider doing a once a month 1 hour training session or 2 hour training session and have a different vendor on each time. And as your members, completed that particular training session, if you did it once a month and they did all 12 months, at the end, they'd get a master certified business management certification or something like that.
Right.
And that would, you could bring in your parts distributors, you could bring in the very infamous Jack Miller, Dan Eccles to do some training on pricing and customer service and upselling. And you could bring in Assurian to teach the selling up skills, not just on extended warranties, but diversify.
You've got Jack almost wringing his hands over there. So poor. He's,
No, there's a couple of things back on the parts one in our efficiency class, because we know parts can be a real black hole for companies. We actually brought up the little bit that we knew, and we right up front said, hey, we're not parts experts. We don't claim to be parts experts, but what's everybody doing? Are you inventorying parts and stocking them on trucks? And how do you keep that fresh and not stale? And then how many people here are direct shipping? What are the pros? What are the cons, etc.? And then we just let everybody in the room talk. That probably, Dan, would you say that ate like 15 minutes out of our class, which is a lot in one class session. But we felt it was important enough in the efficiency portion of the company that it needed to have some conversation, and it went well. People got a lot of different ideas and topics. If you're going to do things with classes, whether it's at ASTI or in the laundry room, like Debbie said, I would recommend that you put outlines together for 2 or 3 different topics. People who are direct shipping, what can you do in that? How does it work? What are the problems? How do you overcome the problems, etc.? Separate class. People who are doing inventory. How are you doing your parts inventory? How do you know which parts to stock? Are you asking your PDs to do top 100 moving parts or 500 or 1,000 moving parts? Where are you getting your information from to make educated choices? So that would be the approach that I would take with parts specifically. to Jenny's point about selling, we always talk about how you present your pricing to your customer. So we put that into any of our strategic pricing classes that we did. All of the classes were well attended. The first one, the efficiency class, we maxed out that room. People were standing. Our professional pricing class, I think they moved us to a different classroom to be able to accommodate. And although we didn't fill the 140 person classroom, it was still 60, 80 people on the very last day of the conference following the banquet and everything. Or was that right? Yeah, I think so. It was the first class in the morning. So the fact that people made it to the class surprised me after the night before. So those are different things. Pricing on parts, I think, is a big topic. I think that I talk about it frequently. I saw James in here as well. He's talked about parts pricing and making sure that you're doing it. But people don't understand that if they're selling parts at suggested retail price, they're losing money on them because it costs them 30 to 35% to handle them. So keep all of those things in mind. We're happy to educate wherever you guys need us to. We don't want to keep doing the same thing year after year ourselves. We're kind of with you guys, and if there's something else that we can teach, but we also bring, you know, almost 20 years of experience with us to the table. So we're happy to share that.
I wonder, one of the things that I've seen done at other conferences is doing like a pre-conference workshop that's like 3 or 4 hours long on something that maybe that's where parts belongs. If it's that diverse and that much talk about it, that much discussion, that maybe that's something we consider, is making that happen, not as part of the regular education track, but a time when there's plenty, because maybe people want to change the way, so you don't want to put them just in. I like Jack's idea of having separate classes, but maybe if there are people that are really starting and growing and need to consider all the options, maybe it is like a pre-conference workshop that's a half a day, that's a whole afternoon, where everybody could come. It's included with your conference. It's not extra money, but it's kind of done where you could set aside that time and really focus on it. That might be something to consider too.
We used to come in and do like Blue Book user groups and that kind of stuff the day before the conference. Really started and invited people to come in early to kind of not take away from class sessions. That kind of changed. I don't know why. I don't know if that was that they just expanded the conference and engulfed that same time frame. It was also when basic electricity and I think basic refrigeration were taught on a kind of a pre-day of the conference. In the way that it's happened in the past. Again, I've been going for 16 years, I think, something like that. So I have a lot of history.
And we have this is kind of we have finally confirmed this week that the conference is shifting. We're cleaning up the tightness of the schedule. And so we are now officially going to be running Monday to Thursday, full days. So we're going to kick off Monday morning and the banquet is Thursday night. So it's 4 full days. We're not doing half days unless it's like something pre-conference when peer groups or like a workshop or something happens. So the dates are shifted for this coming year. And that's our goal, is to have it be a Monday to 4 full day conference.
Yes.
So you guys are the first to hear that. That did get confirmed this week with the hotel that we could shift that. And that does allow everybody to travel in on the weekend, get back before the next weekend, and things like that. So
question.
We wanted to work on that. We got some feedback about half days, and quite honestly, we thought that it was kind of, I don't want to say a waste, but I think it confused a lot of people because we had some feedback about, why did I arrive this day when they weren't doing classes until the afternoon, and et cetera, et cetera. So as a board, as an ASTI committee, we discussed the idea of just ending the conference and with the banquet and letting that be that. And then people can schedule whatever. The last thing I want to do is have somebody think, oh, well, that class I wanted to take is only offered on that half day, the last day. So I'm going to make my flight at 2 so that I can take that class. I don't want to put somebody in that situation. If we can't do it in the 4 full days that we are there for everybody, then we should offer it as a webinar or something like that. And let's just help everybody with their arrival and departure and scheduling and that sort of thing. So we hope that's received very well. We would love your feedback on it, but yeah, we are transitioning away from half days, both at the beginning and at the end.
There's a number of good notes people are putting over in the chat.
Chat,
just
yep.
making
Yes,
sure you guys are
I'm reading those as well. Yeah.
One of the things, have you guys, and I don't know if they've done it. I'm not always most up on what all the classes are, but are you doing anything that's like ASTI 101? And it's the very first thing where it could be a pre-show type of thing where new attendees can come in. Here's what it is. Here's a group of people who will take you by the hand and walk you through this show and get some volunteers of experienced ASTI people, not necessarily employees, because Wendy and Maggie are going to be completely, overwhelmed
Right.
with everything that's going on, because I keep coming up and asking them to do something for me, right, Maggie? But it's one of those things where you go in, you don't know what you're supposed to know until you know it, and so how do you figure out? Even if it's a webinar for first time attendees a week before the conference.
We have done the webinar at least a week out, if not a couple of weeks out. We've done those over the last few years. We have done ASTI 101 during the event. We've had some success with that, but I think there again, we have people who maybe they don't know what material is going to be, even though we put it out there. We've done that a few times. I do like the concept of sort of a mentor or a guided person to point out things. I think that would be a good addition. So that's something we can think about. And you're right. I was reading the comments over here as well, so don't think those are going unnoticed, everybody. We're reading those and kind of taking notes on our own. I know Wendy is. So looking at, the idea that people want to know, to Jenny's point, how the process of parts order. I think that might be specific to a software. Am I correct, Jenny? That maybe there's, you don't know? Okay. Yeah, we might can expand on that and find out which piece is the piece. Not stacking the same type of class at the same time. The examples given of refrigeration classes that are technical that are going on at the same time. Agreed. I've heard that complaint too, that people have to choose and they don't want to choose. So some of our scheduling is about the manufacturers schedule, their own inner schedule, or when they can do something. So we do have to work with them on that. And sometimes that makes things a little bit more complicated, but we can take that into consideration and try to work around those things. And add an app training session so attendees can get the most out of using the app. I like that. I think we could probably speak with the app creators about something like that. They have videos and things like that. Tell you the truth, the Hoova app, when we were all done, that's the one we used at this past event. The creators of it said we were the most participatory group that they had ever encountered. We had more participation on that app than anybody they had used the app prior to us. So, which leads me to the most amazing piece of this. And I always say it when I'm on stage, fumbling through my words and forgetting my board members' names, is the networking that we do. That's the biggest piece of this event. So my question to put out there to everybody is, should we have more opportunity for organized networking? Having just come from another event, some of the networking organized events, I appreciated quite a bit. So we have taken it into consideration to do a couple of things at the beginning, sort of prior to kickoff, prior to keynote, to allow people to come together, because we want everybody to be able to get all of those, hey, how you doing? How have you been? What's going on with you out of the way, so that the rest of the focus can be on the event and the classes and that kind of thing. But do we need more networking?
I
That's
was actually going to add, it was funny. I was checking to make sure that Debbie was still on. Debbie, you know, I know we kind of put you on the spot at a conference recently with two new, you know, owners. Like, is there something almost like, and I'm not trying to say like a mentee mentor program, but like they had some probably burning questions that had been in their mind for so long that you were able to answer in a very short conversation, you know, probably didn't feel like it was short, but short conversation. Like, is there something for especially people who are there for the first time or under 5 years in the industry? Like, is there a special group that we might be able to organize that people would really see value in? Because those two women could not speak more highly, right, of the conversation that they had with you. So, like, is there something there that we could build in that the members would truly find value?
If you're going to do that organized event, like you're talking about, Renee, you might want to do that the night before.
yes.
Sort of organized up like a casual reception.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the schedule. That's on the schedule.
Yep.
There you go. And
We're all in the same brain.
And they can bring those burning questions with them at that point. And when they talk to people that are past board members, you kind of direct traffic. It's like, okay, you know what? You want to talk to this person, seek this one out. They will have that answer, but in a casual way. And to Jack's point, as one of the guys, like founder, the extra day was the pre-day, Wendy. So it became a solid day where it was like a half a day. We did this, we did that. And we come right back to this. Always the case is that they don't know what they don't know. And I've been doing the cost of doing business, trying to get them through that year after year. I'll have 50 people in my class and I have 50 surprised people every time. You know, it's the same thing with presentation, overcoming objections. That one I could use a little bit more time with because you can do more Dale Carnegie with it. But again, you wind up with 50, 60 people all surprised, leaving the room going, oh my God. And I'm thinking, how are you missing this?
Did we lose him?
I think he froze
elder.
up.
As the elder, the kids don't know what they don't know. So you have to like keep feeding it into them. And you want to have it like layered so that they can take it to the next level if they want to, which is great. Now, in the old days, Dave will remember this. It was basically, you know, me, Paul, Tanner, we would just go to a liquor run and we would grab a bunch of beer and throw it in the cooler. And so that was how, Dave's laughing now because he remembers that's kind of how it rolled, you know.
I remember being all thrown in a bathtub actually, but
exactly. And if we didn't get in trouble from the hotel, we weren't doing it right, you know.
I remember the bathtub.
Frat boys.
Yeah.
But
we carry that
those
torch.
are important things. And I do love the idea of cutting that half day off, like just hitting the ground running, knock it out, and you're done.
Yeah.
The half day always kind of leaves the speakers not there. People don't know, they're not sure. So I think you're on the right track with that. I think we were all also on the right track with making those the repeats. So if it was important to somebody to repeat it, at least, okay, there's a designated time. They know that. But you're eliminating that problem. So I think that's fantastic. Anyway.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We've looked at some of those things for a long time now and tried to evaluate whether it was beneficial, you know, because we don't want to take something away that's beneficial to somebody, but we're also serving the masses in this situation. Budgeting wise, we were looking at, we provided 2 meals on a half day. And we just feel like that could be better served. So that's one of the reasons also that we're going, you know, just the scheduling piece. As an attendee myself, I would rather know that I can schedule my leaving time without realizing that, oh, now they're going to have this class that I really wanted, and now it's on the half day. So now I want to change my flight and all of this other stuff. I don't want to do that. Plus, I can't tell you how much luggage that we hold on to for people who the room is gone now, but they're not leaving until after, lunch or whatever. And not that that's a problem, but if we can eliminate those details for people and just have a, clean break at the end of the banquet, then I'd love to do that. So,
I think it's good. And I also, for what it's worthwhile, the peer groups that are converging, if that's a peer group period for them, they have a full day after where they can focus on their peer group, or the full day beginning where they can focus. So it even makes the peer group, like helping the peer groups move along. It even helps that on a sub level. And even, we're not even focused on that. But from a scheduling standpoint, it helps them. So I think you're on the right track there.
Okay.
Renee, I have a question, actually a comment, and it's kind of Angie just cued in on it about asking about putting QR codes on the badges. A great idea. We used to do that at our nationwide marketing group for lead retrieval. But speaking about those of us who are over 40-ish, maybe 50-ish, the name badges inherently, there may be 3 by 3 inches or something. And there is a lot of white space, and our names are very tiny on there. Can you make the font bigger for those of us who can't?
We will be improving the badges. I promise you, the badges will be better. That is one of my
love
promises.
that, Mark.
Thank you. And can you put double-sided tape on the back of them so that they stick to the shirt so they don't flip over?
Or if you use the
Now
double
you've gone too
strap,
far.
Well,
Now
you got to use
with the
double
clip.
strap. Double strap keeps them from
those
spinning.
don't flip. I apologize, I have to jump off here, but I did want to do one little vendor comment about, trying to block out time. If it's running 4 days nonstop of classes, are you blocking out the time for the vendors for the trade show so that they can stop and talk? Because
we're working on those kind of things, Jack, so that we're sure that people will go in the exhibit hall and not, So I'm working on all those schedules. That's all going to be, some drafts of it will be out early this summer. The final schedule with all classes and everything will be up in October. So everybody has plenty of time to know when they want to be there and what they're going to be doing. But yes, we will have all that done early, making sure people will be in the trade show when it is open.
Okay, perfect. Can I talk to you at some point? Would you have time just to bounce ideas?
Everybody is welcome. I do have calls getting ready to go out to most of our vendors to get your feedback on things. Happy to schedule that with any of you who are ready, and ready to get started on booking your stuff for next year too. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I have to run.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for your input.
Go ahead and put out that fire, Jack. Put out that fire.
So one of our biggest problems, and I know we're getting to our hour right now, but one of our biggest problems currently is finding a venue that will house us, because we've gotten pretty sizable as a group. And finding a venue that is in a location that's easily accessible for people with flights and things like that. Coupled with the idea that we don't want to have, because of the time of year that we're having this, we don't want to have major snow issues or bad weather that would, snow people in or aggravate flights and things like that. That's I think right now, Wendy, wouldn't you agree? One of our biggest issues is trying to make sure that we've got a venue that works for everybody with those kinds of stipulations. So we get comments all the time, people say, why don't you go here? Why don't you go here? Well, we're trying to make sure that it brings the group together in a way that's easy, travel wise, housing us, price point. That is a big balancing piece. And thankfully Wendy has that on her plate and I don't have it on mine. I just listen to her when she comes back and says, here's what we have. So take that into consideration whenever, we're in a place where maybe we've been more than once. We're trying to balance those pieces for everybody concerned. And thank you, John, for repping ASTI today by wearing your Las Vegas ASTI shirt. I saw that. I've been staring at it the whole time. Appreciate it. So anything else to add before we go ahead and call this at our 1 hour? This has been a great conversation, but I think we probably could do two of these and get more input because I still have things that I want to cover. Do you guys agree this might be an additional conversation? I'd love to hear some more feedback.
Probably a
from
good idea.
everybody. Yeah, I like it.
Yep.
So anything else before we adjourn?
I just want to bounce off of something you just said, Renee.
Mhm.
What we used to do is we would shift east, Midwest, west. So you didn't have people from the west always traveling east or people from the
Yes.
east always traveling west. So we always tried to break it up, east, middle, and west. And the times we used to do it in Los Angeles, and that was almost too far west for everybody, which is
Yeah.
where Las
Yeah,
Vegas
it's getting
became a
expensive.
factor.
Yeah, West is getting very expensive too, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not-
our price
right,
point out
exactly.
there is outrageous.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Even
it's-
for places that we've already been and we would like, to go there again.
Right.
I just think we alienate a lot of people if we, I'd love to do it.
But
And Wendy
if-
would love to do it, but yeah, those price points are crazy right now.
Yeah, it's almost funny that we did repeats in San Diego
Yes.
because we had surplus. Yeah, and
Yeah.
surplus, for everybody knows, that doesn't mean they cut you a check. It means you have credit. So we have to go back to use that money.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then now here it's priced out of off the price point. And we're like, wow,
Mhm.
things have changed. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
they really have, and I think it's evidenced in our business too. Everybody is dealing with different price points that 5 years ago that it wouldn't have been the thing. So I think we've changed as a society as a whole. I think some of the stuff we've gone through the last 5 years has been a contributor, but it's just time, and I think we just have to be innovative about how we're doing these things. And hope that the membership understands that if we end up at some point going to a convention center situation, that's because our numbers thankfully require it. And so for right now, we're able to fit into Kansas City, and so they will graciously host us this coming year. So
And
but
it's in
yeah,
the middle
I'd
of the,
just
it's the middle of the
schedule another.
country. It's in the middle of the country.
There you
And
go.
they know how to deal with it when it snows there, by the way. It is not shocking to them when it snows. So should be easy for everybody to get to Kansas City, and everything is inside. You can walk to the neighboring restaurants and
Absolutely.
everything. It's all connected. But we are planning to book 27 and 28 here pretty soon. Probably by this fall, we'll know where those next two conferences are going to be. So everybody can be on board with those early and dates. But also remember, you're coming to ASTI to learn and network and be with each other, not just to eat barbecue. So we'll have some barbecue, but
Right,
we're coming
yeah.
for a lot of things, right?
a little bit of
Yeah.
barbecue on the menu.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys, I really, really appreciate
so
it.
much.
Wendy, thank you
Thanks,
for
everybody.
coordinating everything, and thank you everybody who attended today. Your feedback is invaluable to us. I cannot say enough about the feedback, both here and in person. As long as I'm associated with it, yeah, grab me by the elbow and tell me what you think of everything that we're doing. If we can improve it, we will. Absolutely. So, but get back to your days. I really appreciate your time and have a good week.
Thanks,
Thank
Renee.
Thank
you.
you.
Great job.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.